Hey, are you on, Colin?
I am indeed. Hey, buddy.
Hey there. You're muted on Colin, by the way, so if you want to do the usual swapperoonie.
Got you.
We're there.
We're there. We're
We're
there.
there. The dangers of live broadcasting, not a problem most e-commerce operators have most of the time anyway. How are you doing? Look at camera one. I've got the camera over here. How's life in California? Is it as hot for you as it is for us over here in Europe?
We are doing great, man. We're loving life, and California's treating us well. It's a beautiful state. We love it, and it's good to be back in my home state. I was always a California kid, you know. I
Yeah.
am, even in my 50s, I'm a California kid.
Yeah, you got that enthusiasm that the Californians have, I think, definitely. That the Oregonians and sort of people from Washington that I've met, not many, but they seem a bit more reserved. So yeah, I think you're back in your natural home territory, aren't you? Where enthusiasm is the norm, and have a nice day
Absolutely.
means have a nice day. Not I'm just trying to be polite. Good.
Absolutely.
So we're talking pricing and helping people to make more money, which is a good thing. And every week there's something scarier in the newspapers and online, right? It's getting scary out there. So it's good to have something which means we're going to think this stuff through rather than run around like headless chickens.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
So we ready to jump into this good topic?
absolutely. Yeah. Are we going straight into the podcast introduction? Am I
Let's
am I
do it.
hitting that?
Let's do it.
Excellent. What is your near-term business goal? Do you even have one? If nothing just popped into your mind, you may have a problem, which would be that you're in business with no near-term business goals. Directionless, just surviving, not focused. So, in today's podcast conversation, we're going to address that issue and explain how pricing strategy connects to it. So, Jason, dramatic introduction. Give us a little introduction to the pricing principle number 4 and explain how it relates to having or indeed not having any near-term business goals.
Yeah, well, I think this is a vital topic to discuss. And really, the gist of it is we need to make sure that our business goal is aligned with our pricing strategy, or really, it's aligning our pricing strategy with our core business goal. And, but that begs the question, well, what is your business goal? And, the truth is, after a few years, some of us can, and I mean, point the finger at myself, some of us can just get satisfied with where we're at in business. We kind of hit a plateau. Maybe we feel like we've got things sorted out sufficiently and we're like, this is good. I'm happy. I'm set. And we stop challenging ourselves with near term specific business goals because we're kind of like just managing a system that works. But the truth is, we all need short term business goals. And those are either put on us by the market conditions or they're put on us by ourselves. And, when we start a business, we're frequently like real focused on the near term business goals. And so I just want to challenge everybody to think about what is your near term business goal? And then how does your pricing stack up against it and your pricing strategy fit and align and support it? And there are other strategies, of course, that have to support it as well. Operational goals, product strategy goals, sourcing strategies, on and on and on. But the pricing strategy that supports your business goals are particularly important. And that's what we want to focus on today. So hopefully that's a good little introduction and sort of tease up the topic nicely. So.
Great. And so that's a nice sort of a broad topic of business goals, but with a very specific kind of slice through it with the pricing strategy. So what are the common business goals that relate to pricing strategy then?
Yeah. I think there's a whole set of them. I mean, there's more than we could ever even name together here. But I think I brainstormed a list before we started the conversation, and you done a few as well. And so let me just mention a few, and then we'll dive into a few of these and do sort of a deep dive into them. But there are a lot of goals. The first goal when you think about launching a new e-commerce operation would be maybe it's to make $1,000 a month, through your business. That's a good first goal. That was our first goal, and we did that for it was 18 months or more. But before anything really changed, and that was just the goal we strove for. We were on eBay back in the day, 2007, and that was the first good goal. Second goal might be building a bigger audience. Maybe you've got a business that requires a large audience, and you want a lot of followers, different social media platforms, big email list, something like that. That's a different business goal. Third one might be launching a new private label brand or a new product, or even launching a brand in its entirety. The fourth business goal might be switching from a big marketplace like selling on Amazon to switching or to adding a direct to consumer website. Maybe you want to add, a Shopify site to support your product. That's a very common goal. Another one might be taking market share from a bigger competitor. Maybe you're an entrant, you're making sales, you've got something happening, and you're feeling good about it, but you realize that there are a lot bigger market players that are dominating, and you want to take share from them. Another business goal might just be survival. Maybe you're on the bubble, and your business is about to go under, and you've got to figure out how to do survival pricing. Another one might be reputation or market building in terms of your brand, name awareness, just getting yourself out there as an industry player. Maybe you're in a competitive market with lots and lots of players, and you just need people to know your name and focus on name recognition. An eighth one, I think eighth on my list is maybe you want to create your own anchors. And an anchor is a price point or a price positioning of a product. That's a whole different, I think we'll get into that as we talk about chapter 9 of pricing power. But those are 8 business goals that are pretty common. And again, all of us have different places we're at in our business, and your goal might be different than any of these. But those are some that are common, that are top of mind for me. Michael, I know you've got a few others. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think there's pretty common goals and very good goals. They're pretty concrete. I've come across in the private label and Amazon focused, more narrow world that I tend to inhabit, I guess 3 other goals. One is doubling revenue. And I always question that as a goal. Everybody seems obsessed with doing that. I don't know why. It's like, going to double this year. Okay, why are you going to do that? An old business coach of mine, Dan Bradbury, went to, I can't remember the name of the guy he went to. He's really good. I think it's, he's written a book, and I'll look it up and I'll put it in the show notes. But the guy who went to see, Keith Cunningham, I think it is, written a book called The Road Less Stupid. And I think Dan went to him and said, I want to double my business next year. And he sat back and there was silence. And he said, I think that's possibly the stupidest goal I've ever heard, or something like that. So I'm not saying that sounds a bit aggressive, but I do not endorse this. But nevertheless, it's got to be a bit more mindful than that, because why are you doing this? Is it because you think you're going to double your profit? Okay, well, then why don't you just say, I want to double my profit, which to do with the pricing question, right, may be a very different thing from doubling revenue. The other things, however, which I think are excellent goals, which are very, very common and very real things, are creating a sellable business for the future. I took on a new mentoring client yesterday. He's got that very goal within, say, 3 years, and selling a business within the next 12 months. And we've had a member of the mastermind recently sell a business. And of course, that means you've got to think quite differently about near-term pricing and profits, really. So, yeah, those are the other things.
You mentioned doubling profit. So you had doubling revenue, doubling profit, creating a sellable business for the future, and selling your business in the next 12 months. We've worked with clients on all of those goals, actually. And these are, I like the doubling your sales. I like the doubling your profit goal a lot more, because the truth is big doors swing on little hinges. And many times you can end up doubling your profit without really increasing your top line revenue very much, because it's an operational efficiency thing. And it's a strategy thing, and pricing really plays into that very, very nicely. So I like that one a lot. Okay, so that's 12 business goals. And we could do a whole podcast just on these and really geek out over all of those, but that's not really the emphasis of today's show. Today's show is really all about trying to figure out how to align pricing with your business goal. It's sort of a 2-step maneuver. It's not good enough to just jump off the diving board. You've got to do some kind of acrobatic thing in the air before you hit the water to get any points. You've got to do something interesting for the judges to say, yes, that worked. And so the question is, how do you rig up pricing to support any one of these? And that's what we want to talk about a bit more today. So, yeah.
Great. Well, so now we've been very rude about the doubling revenue goal. Maybe we should take one or two of them that we're a bit more polite. I'm particularly biased towards the switching from a big marketplace to adding D2C site sales, because I've got 2 or 3 clients who are doing that. But again, to the point, one of them does, I don't know, about $1 million a year in revenue. But when we dug a bit deeper into it, they're not very excited about it, because they don't really do anything except break even, more or less. Right. So, and other people have got it and it's just losing money, and it's early days for them. So I'm biased. I mean, is there, before we get into an individual one though, which I'm particularly obsessed with that one, are there sort of generalized pricing strategies that relate to all of the goals we've just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the three common pricing tactics in the prior podcast conversations, and just to review those, so we don't have to clarify our terminology. There are three basic positions you take in any pricing game. One is the penetration pricing, or being the low cost provider. That's the cheapest pricer. You're going to be the cheapest person selling the item. That's called penetration pricing by the economists. That's a hard road to hoe, because you have to be able to justify the low cost inside your business. You can't just do that on a whim and say, I'm going to make less than everybody else. You'll go out of business. It won't work. So anyway, so that's penetration pricing. The second one is Me Too pricing. And that's just where you're in the pack of pricing. Maybe there's 10 sellers that are all selling something similar, and they're all hovering in the $12 range. Then you too offer your item at the $12 range. So that's Me Too pricing. And that's real safe, and then the third strategy is premium pricing, or prestige pricing. And that's where you have the highest price product in the marketplace. You have to be able to demand that from the buyers, and you have to be able to justify it over the long term. That's generally tied to high value branding and really exceptional marketing. So those are just three general strategies that many people will play around with. And so that's it's good context, I think, for what we're about to talk about as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I guess we should talk. I've poured scorn on the idea of just doubling revenue for the sake of it. Is there a sort of generalized error that you see with pricing strategy across all the different goals that we talked about before we get into the individual goals?
Yeah, I mean, well, the most common, like, if you're just saying to yourself, okay, those are 12 business goals, and I could pick up 2 or 3 of those, I like them, or maybe 2, 1 or 2 of them I have it top of mind right now, or maybe you got one top of mind. If your pricing strategy or your pricing response to any one of those is offer more discounts, then you don't have a pricing strategy. Really, that's not the right answer. The wrong answer is just coupon discount, lower price. That can't be the way to a sustainable path forward for your business. It just can't. You can't survive forever in that game. You have to get more sophisticated than that. So I would say that's a general error that many people would make, is just, what's the solution to any problem? Well, it's lowering your price. It's almost like the old thing that was like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
That can't be the right response. That's not a sophisticated economic strategy that will.
But you're absolutely right. So, what I think is interesting about what you've talked about with pricing strategy and linking that with having goals, or rather the absence of them, is in the absence of you having a clear goal as a seller on a marketplace, or indeed in a market generally, you're going to be influenced, consciously or not, by the strategies or the priorities of the market. And if you sell on Amazon, Amazon's priority is lower price of greater selection. So they want you to put out yet another product line to give more selection at a low price, because that's what they want for their consumers. But that doesn't serve us at all. And so you're right, that it's very easy to do that, actually.
Exactly right. The consumer also wants one other thing. They want the lowest price possible, and or it free. And they also want it now. So what do the consumers want? I want more, and I want it now. So that's not a surprising, giving into that impulse, lower is not a surprising or interesting pricing strategy. So anyway, so all that to say, that's not the right answer. And so, let's talk about one of the, strategies here. You mentioned the one about switching from a marketplace to your own direct-to-consumer website. That's a noble goal, a business goal. That's obviously for e-commerce sellers that are on a journey of selling in marketplaces. That's a fantastic exercise to think through and launch and go through. We help many clients do that. In my Shopify Power course on Udemy, I think we're almost at 40,000 students. And that's the journey most of them are on. They've sold some on Amazon or eBay, and they've made some money, and they figured, oh, I better get myself a Shopify site set up. And so the pricing strategy associated with that is really interesting to think through. And so let's walk through that. So I'll just mention 3 or 4 or 5 ideas related to having something. Let's just say fictitiously somebody's selling $10,000 a month on Amazon, and so they've got a 6-figure business. and they want to sell direct to consumer on their own Shopify site. So what would you do in terms of pricing strategy? Like, what's the battle plan or the general game plan? Let me mention 2 or 3 ideas here. So the first one would be, you don't want to compete with yourself on your new website. So in other words, you've got Amazon price points. Let's say your Amazon price point's $20. You don't want to launch your Shopify price strategy and say, I'm going to sell for $19 on my Shopify site because I have more margin, because Amazon's not taking, the costs out on their side, so I can sell for cheaper. That's a really stupid thing to do. So you don't want to do that. And the reason you don't want to do that is, first of all, Amazon could see it, and the marketplaces are very sophisticated now. And if you end up changing your prices on different places, it can cause real problems. In fact, you can end up with, we've had clients have this happen, one price on Chewy and one price on Amazon, and Amazon gets mad at the Chewy price, and the Chewy price people don't care. They'll do sales or whatever, and it actually ruins your sales opportunities on all the places because you or someone else has fiddled around with prices. The other thing about not competing with yourself is, if you sell your product for, let's say, $19 on your own website, and then you sell it for $20 on Amazon, what you're expressing to the people who really look into it, the people who are really investigating who you are and what you're doing, is a lack of integrity. And it's a lack of pricing integrity. And you could argue and say, no, it's not. Everybody does this every place. No, really what you're saying is, if you buy it on Amazon, you get it for $20. You buy it on my site, you get it for $19. Why? Well, because. Well, because you have no actual justification that makes sense, is a dumb positioning strategy for pricing. So don't do that. Okay, so that's the first thing, is don't compete with yourself publicly. But what you can do, this is really, really valuable, and why Shopify sites are super valuable to e-commerce operators, is you can discreetly discount, or you can create non-direct or non-obvious opportunities for better pricing through your Shopify site. How do you do that? You can do that through having loyalty points program. So loyalty point programs everybody does it. Starbucks has mastered this now. Everybody goes to Starbucks, and you don't give them money, and you don't give them a credit card. What do you give them? You just point the Starbucks app at the Starbucks person. I told somebody recently, Starbucks, I heard this thought, somebody else told me, Starbucks is basically a bank now. Everybody gives Starbucks their money, and then Starbucks holds your money on an app, and then they let you use it in their store. What is happening right now? So anyway, but that loyalty program gives them the opportunity to give away a cookie or a free drink or a 10% off or whatever. So you can create loyalty program. You can create VIP programs. And create opportunities for your VIPs to get better pricing. We've helped clients implement these types of strategies, and they really, really work well. You can implement buy and save, or subscribe and save on Shopify. So it's the same exact price as you have on Amazon, but if you subscribe, you save on Shopify. And that's actually on Amazon as well. So you can mirror that on Shopify. So these are just Shopify tricks of the trade or apps technically, that allow you to have a better pricing strategy on your Shopify site than you would find on Amazon. So that's the second thing. Third thing, and then sorry, I know I'm like just going here, but third thing is you could create upsells and cross sells that really increase your average order value. So you want to have average order value on your Shopify transactions be as high as possible. And you do that through upsells and cross sells. So, and so there's a secondary product concept there you're playing with, and the pricing for it is the object that you're playing with, not the pricing for your primary product. So all these things work together on a Shopify site to create the context in which you're, again, mirroring the Amazon price, so you have integrity, but you're really creating a context in which there's a real good reason for people to come and buy from you on your Shopify site. So that's just a little bit, I guess, of what I would think in that regard for that specific business goal.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like the idea of showing you kind of confidence / integrity around the pricing. I think that is actually more important than people think. Um, and yeah, giving discrete pricing is that's got to be the way to go. And the thing is, it feels logical as a consumer, right? It makes sense to me that if I buy more from you or that I commit to you rather than your competition, that I get a bit of a discount. I mean, it doesn't feel weird.
Hmm.
Tell me about this average order value piece. So I've got had a client the other day. He was talking in the mastermind. He's got a direct to consumer site. He's getting about $20 cost of acquiring customers. So he's actually selling. I think he's done a nice job on branding. He's actually getting about a 3% conversion rate, which for me, off I think Google shopping ads, is pretty good. In fact, I said, look, I don't know if that's necessarily the problem. So I did quote you and say that what would
Hmm.
Jason say? I mean, I think it's the the lifetime customer value that you need to work on and the AOV, but he hasn't got much of a catalog. And I could kind of hear
Hmm.
him not taking this on board and going, yeah, but I just need to sell more stuff more cheaply, thinking like an Amazon seller, in other words. So
Yeah.
how do we deal with that if we don't have much of a catalog of products yet?
Yeah.
Would you pop somebody else's products in there as an affiliate sort of link, or how would you sort of try and increase that?
I wouldn't do that. That's more complicated than it might be worth. I mean, I would
Mm-hmm.
do that as a second or third idea. The first idea would be, how do you get your existing product into a few different modalities for your customer? And what do I mean by that? Well, Russell Brunson has proven, and he talks a lot about on ClickFunnels, the number one upsell is a 2-pack. It's like, hey, you want to buy this thing? Yes, I do. Hey, do you want to buy 2 of them? Oh, sure. It's like, that's a really easy upsell. So, that's not, there's no 2 products there. It's just one product. It's a bundling strategy. And so, you want to think through those types of upsell opportunities. The other thing that comes to my mind as you mentioned that client is, we've worked with clients before who are just getting their Shopify site going. And they're in this discovery phase of like, how can they get traffic and how much does it cost? And one of the things that we saw as a real breakthrough, as a really, really powerful breakthrough with one of our clients, was he thought he was going to sell direct to consumer on his Shopify site. And he was spending too much money trying to make that a reality. But then he started having restaurants buy from him. And what he realized was it could be a B2B Shopify experience and really focus on not direct to consumer, but direct to business owners who will buy in pallets, not in ones. And so literally that's what our client did. He started selling pallet loads of product, not one item at a time. And trust me, that changes the average order value like in totality. It was like, it's a whole different business because you realize, oh, there's somebody who wants 150 of these at one time, one transaction. Yes. And so those types of strategies are way more valuable to think through. Now, that in that case, that wasn't a pricing strategy, although, if you work with a B2B customer, they might expect an escalation, where the more they buy, the more they save type thing. But that's some of the thing you want to think through when you're starting a new website, and it relates to pricing. Because again, just lowering your price is not and selling more, making it up on volume. That's like the kindergarten version of this stuff. It is not a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the difference between that and the kind of common response is that if you sell a pallet load as opposed to ones or twos, then obviously there's an extremely solid reason for a discount while still
Hmm.
making good profits, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that makes a huge amount of sense.
Yep.
And tell me a bit more about the discrete pricing angle. I mean, I was saying before, it feels to me like that links the sort of
Hmm.
integrity of pricing because it makes sense to me psychologically. But tell me what the other sort of implications and upsides are of that one.
Yeah, there's so much value there. And just, like if somebody said to me, hey, what's the value proposition for setting up a Shopify site? I would say if you have any type of customer who's going to buy an item from you more than one time, like if it's a one time, like you're selling caskets to, somebody, then it's a final closeout deal, to use the bad pun there. But if you're selling something where somebody's going to come back for a second purchase from you, then setting up a loyalty program by itself is a reason to have a Shopify website. It just is it's a service to the customer, And so I would say that's a huge, value proposition. We use S Loyalty as the app to empower our loyalty program, and then the exercise there really is pretty straightforward. Get new people to your site, convert them to loyalty members, there's whole systems and strategies and process for that. So and then in the loyalty programming, you basically give them the opportunity to earn their own discounts by their shopping behavior. So, and the thing about it, every customer knows this. Customers love this. There's a reason Starbucks does this. The Starbucks did not get protests out in front of their headquarters when they kicked this off. Like people don't object to loyalty pricing and VIP, custom pricing. So Starbucks has pioneered this, and it works. Amazon Prime, obviously, you could have your own Prime Day if you have your own loyalty program. That's what my reflection on Prime Day that just happened recently was I said to Cinnamon, we need to have our own Prime Day set of deals for our loyalty program members on our website. And we've never done that. We offer them strategic coupons. Hey, spend X amount and you get this kind of a coupon. We've never gone out in 12 years of doing business and said, hey, we've got 42 special deals just for our loyalty program members. Like, why haven't I ever done that before? But anyway, so those types of strategies are all in play when you have a Shopify site and sell direct to consumer, and they're all pricing related ideas and concepts.
Nice. I guess what you're saying is you're using special pricing as a reward for the behavior that will make you money, but also as a reward in the consumer, which is why it's a win-win, which is why they're
Yeah.
not getting peeved at you. Whereas
Yeah.
I would say Amazon Prime Day, the experience I've had with Amazon Prime Day personally, but more with my clients and friends, is that every year the response to Prime Day is more and more muted. I mean, pretty much nobody discusses
That's
it
right.
anymore. Are you
That's
doing
right.
anything for Prime Day? No. And the reason why is
Mhm.
because they've discovered you can give a lot of discounts and you make a heck of a lot more sales, but you make less money than if
Yeah.
you've done no discounts in the first place. Talking of
So
profit versus revenue, it really is that simple these days, really.
yeah, I totally agree. But so here's the thing, because once you ring the dinner bell 42 times in a row, it's like how many times do we want to do this before it kind of gets old? So I think Prime Day
Yeah.
may have run its course, but there is a whole different tactic that I love to work with people on, and we have worked on with coaching clients, and that's a VIP program. And Costco is the quintessential example of this. Customers will pay you cash money up front for a discount. Now, just think through that for a minute. Like, okay, wait, I need to lower my prices. No, you don't. Why don't you ask people to pay you money before you lower the price? Like, wait, that would work? That's what Costco does. That's, and Sam's Club. And so, Jim Sinegal, the guy who really scaled that concept, was the founder of Costco. And I tell this example in every other podcast, so apologize if you've heard it a million times. But I listened to him in a lecture one time at Northwest University up in the Seattle area, where he's close by their headquarters. And somebody asked him why he doesn't sell a 50-count bottle of aspirin, and he said because customers would buy it. And that's a pricing strategy comment. And what did he mean by that? He meant he sells 500-count bottles for a lot more money, and that's the only thing he offers. But on top of that, people have paid him money to walk through the front door. So he's playing it like hyper chess level, and most people are playing it checkers. So he's gotten paid for people to come buy his overly priced, expensive, technically compared to a 50-count bottle, big, huge bottle. So you get the idea. But a VIP program, every Shopify store owner can do a VIP program model. It could be a whole course. It could be a whole, big ticket training and all that. We do this with our coaching clients, where we walk them through how to get a VIP program established. People pay you monthly or annually for the right to buy your items, or get them at a discount. And so that's a little bit of what goes into this whole idea of loyalty and discrete, selling of your items, rather than just having it bam on your homepage of your Shopify site for $10 instead of $20. You can't do it that naively or simply.
Yeah, I love this. This is I love the passion you got about this, and also what strikes me is you're articulating kind of almost a business model. At least it's very, very powerful for your cash flow and
Hmm.
profitability, but it's very much a pricing strategy, isn't it? Because ultimately, it's
Hmm.
price and consumer behavior and how you reward behavior, rather than being constantly the person to move first and lower your price. You're saying, well, if you want lower prices, come over here and you can have it, but you got to pay me
Hmm.
first. I mean,
Hmm.
it's kind of genius, I have to say.
Well,
Um,
people do it too, which is the
yeah,
crazy part. Is like sometimes in life you just got to go with the flow, and you don't have to beat your head against the wall and try to make people do something they don't want to do. People like loyalty programs. People like VIP programs. And
yeah,
so if the customers like it, do it. If it's
yeah.
beneficial to you, why wouldn't you, So,
Yeah, I think also the psychology that I love about this is that you're really creating something a bit exclusive, and something can only be
mhm,
exclusive if there is clearly and consistently a difference between what you get behind the velvet curtain and what everyone else
mhm.
gets. Like either you
That's right.
don't get to enter the store Costco style, or you get your widgets for $20 as opposed to $15 plus some extra thing.
Yeah,
And I really like the psychology of that, because that appeals pretty universally. Actually, it's a sort of them and us kind of. It's a bit like business class on a plane. It's the same flipping plane, isn't it? It's not really
yeah,
that much different, but they
yeah.
charge 10 times as much. I'm sure that's where the only profit in any airline, if it is at any point profitable. Most airlines aren't. I'm sure that's where their profits come from, right? It's
That's
that
right.
exclusivity. So yeah, I love
And
that.
it's a pricing strategy then. Is it, and a little bit of the, I mean, there's a whole bunch of elements to first class in an airplane, but in general, you're right. It starts with sort of justifying the high price. Yeah.
You're sitting in a sort of aluminium sardine can with everyone else, right?
Yeah.
It always absolutely blows my mind how much the airlines get for first class.
Although
It's just, you know,
those Emirates first class seats, man, if you have been on a big international flight on the Emirates lately, those things are like an amazing. You get your own cocoon of awesomeness. Anyway, all right, that's off topic, but let's keep going. You want to do another one? Do we have time to do
yeah.
another one before we
I've
wrap?
not been on Emirates. I obviously do lots of cheap little hops around Europe. I've not done the Emirates thing yet, but maybe one day. So, yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, what interests me the most with the people that I work with these days is trying to take. We could talk survival, but that's a bit depressing. Let's talk about taking market share off bigger competitors, because that's
Hmm.
really what the feisty competitors out there really want to do. I've just been listening to Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
Hmm.
Absolutely riveting. I've been really looking forward to listening to it while I've been out running, ironically enough. And he was obsessed with taking market share off Adidas or Adidas, however you say it. So
Yeah,
that mirrors some of the e-commerce operators I know. They're very conscious of competing. So how do we
yeah.
actually do that with pricing?
Mm, I think that's a whole different. I think that's a big podcast conversation. What
Okay.
if we do? Okay, I'll counter your proposal. What if we do getting your first $1,000 in sales?
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Let's tell us about that. Yeah, yeah. Let's do that. That's pretty common as well.
Well, I think because it serves new sellers, entrance into the market pretty good. So let's do that one. Let's do that one. So okay, so let's pretend that what you want to make your first $1,000 a month in sales, and you're launching yourself on a marketplace. Maybe it's Etsy, maybe it's eBay, maybe it's Amazon, maybe who knows? Maybe it's Craigslist, whatever it might be. Um, Let me mention two or three strategies. So the first thing that you want to do when you're a new entrant into a marketplace is, first of all, you realize you don't know what's out there. There's so many things you don't know. You don't know who's out there competition wise. You don't know what the customer will pay. You don't know if there's a low cost leader that has a strategic advantage that you don't understand. Like maybe they own the, whatever it is. They own the gold mine, or they own the oil well, or they own their father-in-law owns the entire forest of teak wood in the Amazon, and you didn't know that, and you don't have that strategic advantage, or there's something you don't know there about the low price person. Maybe there's something you don't know about the prestige pricers either. Or maybe you don't even know, hey, I don't even know if there's a prestige pricer in this market. So there's so many things you don't know when you're going into a new market with a new product. I would always suggest people enter that market with Me Too pricing. So we've already talked about the three kind of general pricing strata. So Me Too pricing is that middle safe, just similar to everyone else. And if you do Me Too pricing, you know that you're operating in a zone of plausible profit, similar to the other operators that are in business. They haven't gone bankrupt, but they're not doing anything special per se, and you too can join them. Now, what do you do in that space then? Well, you've got to figure out in that space how to differentiate yourself on something other than price. And so the first step is to differentiate yourself on something other than price. And what could that be? Well, maybe it's speed, maybe it's beauty of the packaging, maybe it's there's some kind of how-to educational content bonus, maybe there's some different structure of the product itself that makes it more valuable. There's a whole list of things you could geek out over about how to differentiate yourself. And then once you find that point of differentiation, like, okay, no one is doing this for, in this way, with this color palette, for this certain type of customer, you find your point of differentiation. You really have to hammer that home and lean into that in everything you do. Copywriting, the brand concept, the presentation, the videos, the social media handles, everything you do, you have to lean into that advantage or differentiation. And so that's step 2. Step 3 then would be to begin to explore either the penetration pricing or the prestige pricing tactics and strategies, because you'll know more. You'll get to that point where you say, okay, I'm getting to the $1,000 a month in sales, and you achieve that milestone. You'll start to see who else is in the competitive space, and you'll really start to understand, is there a prestige pricer in this space? And I'll just say that, all things being equal, if you enter some niche, and there's so many out there, this is a true situation. You could enter a niche and there's no prestige pricer. And if you enter a niche and there's no prestige pricer, you have a massive opportunity to be the prestige pricer. Now, will a customer allow for there to be a prestige pricer? Maybe not. Maybe it's a commodity and no one's going to pay you a penny more than what they could see everywhere else. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe there's no brand prestige objectification of the item in the mind of the consumer to the degree to which they'll pay for it to be, nicer than anyone else's. But maybe there is, and you just don't know it. So these are the things you have to learn. So anyway, as I would approach a first entry into the market, this is what I would do. And we did this when we started on eBay in 2007. The first thing we did was we did $1,000 a month, and we didn't do anything special. We in fact, we listed our auctions back then for a starting price of 1 penny, and we let there be no pre-sale amount, no minimum amount that the item would sell for, and we let the market dictate the price. And so anyway, so this is how I would approach it. And I think that gives you a lot of optionality, and it lets you learn, which is the most important thing as you're beginning to sell a new product for a new price. So hopefully that helps a little.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, a couple of reflections. First of all, the last thing first. I think the fact that you sold on eBay, which is an auction, is a more brutal analysis of what the market really values any individual item at. And so that's something that's harder to sort of emulate, because I guess you are making dolls one at a time, right? Handmade. Whereas the typical Amazon private label seller has the opposite problem, where they have to import at least 1,000 from China, and then they're sitting there, and to the person with the hammer, everything looks like a nail. To the person with the product, times 1,000 in your garage or in an Amazon warehouse, everything looks like you better get rid of it right away. So
yes, but can I just give you
one
one pricing tactic for that
please.
Example? And okay, so everybody should just go get Pricing Power ebook and read the whole thing, because what I'll tell you is not about this topic for today, but it's in the Pricing Power book. If you have 1,000 items that you've imported, what you can powerfully do is pre-sell those and do a Dutch auction, which is everyone collectively gets to help you set the price. And you sell on the fact that you only have 1,000. You use scarcity as a technique for selling those items. If you just dump them on Amazon and don't tell people how many you have, and there's no sense of urgency. It's just like another commodity. Like, oh, well, how many do you have? Well, as many as are needed, but you really only have 1,000. Then you got to use these tools of what you've got. You've got to use in your pricing strategy, I guess, is my commentary there. So a Dutch auction on eBay, actually, for many items, no one does that. I mean, literally no one that I know of does the Dutch auction strategy style, where you say, hey, I've got 500 of these and you all get to choose to buy one, but it ramps up cost wise. But in the current market conditions, where containers are taking 6 months to get and many items are sold out, man, that would be an interesting thing for people to play around with if you've got a limited supply of something. So anyway, sorry to interject that, but it's a whole different conversation.
Oh, I love that. I really like it because it does reflect reality. Tell me about the Dutch auction. How would that work on eBay? Because I've never sold on eBay really. I mean, I've used Joe
Mhm.
Lister to take products from Amazon, but it didn't work very well. So
Yeah. So
consider me an eBay rank newbie. How does that work?
yeah, so you get a couple different auction strategy styles, and the one in eBay that almost everyone uses is called a Victory auction. But there's other auction styles that are just really not popular. But so go research this on your own, because I'm not an expert at Dutch auction. But Victory auction is the standard one everyone uses, which is, here's an item, start bidding. It's like, and that's Victory auction. So like, I bid $10. Well, I bid 11. I bid 12. I bid 13. And you end up in a Victory auction, which is a standard style, with let's say 5 people bidding, and oh, my camera just freaked out. Sorry. 5 people bidding, and one person's going to win the item. That's one item being auctioned. Well, what if you've got 10 of the items or 100 of the items? Well, then you can do a different format. And the format is more like people raise their hands and they say what they're willing to pay for. This is some of the detail of the Dutch auction, but go research this, because I'm, again, kind of thinking through this on my feet. But in general, the way you do it is you say, I've got, let's say, 100 of these items, and I don't know what they're worth, and neither do you guys, because man, it took me 6 months to import them, and prices have radically changed since I tried to get them, and no one else has them. And so let's just put them out there, and you guys tell me what you're willing to pay, and the best 100 bidders are going to get one of these items. And so then what happens is people start setting a floor, like, well, I'm willing to pay $10, and so are 99 other people. Well, the floor just became $10. Well, 101st person who comes in was like, dang it, if I want one of these, I got to pay $10 or more. So I'm going to bid $11. And what happens is it escalates the entire cohort of prospective buyers. And if you run those properly, you'll end up having a market clearing price that everyone collectively has agreed to. And as the seller, you get to say to yourself, I didn't set the price. I'm not price gouging. I had 100. I put it on eBay. Collectively, 100 people told me that they were all willing to pay $82.50. And that's awesome. So that's more of the Dutch, I believe. Now go fact check me on all that. But yeah, that is a whole different way to construct a pricing strategy, which this gets back to our eBay work originally in 2007. And I love this stuff, because what I could say in eBay when I set my price to a penny, but my item went for $500, and people would get mad. Like, how could you sell that for $500? That's so unfair. I'm like, I didn't set the price. I set the price for a penny. I didn't know what the price was. This is more like how you sell art, or how you sell a scarce commodity, and you get to say to the community, I'm just selling it for what the market says it's worth. And you cede control of the pricing strategy to the community. There's a huge power in that, because you can say, like, honestly, I'm operating with integrity. I'm not trying to gouge anybody. I'm just trying to move my item or my 100 items in a fair way. Now, all of that requires you to be a marketer and to have an audience and to explain what you're doing to your audience. But, these marketplaces, especially eBay, I mean, if I had a couple $1 billion, or like whatever it would be, like 100 billion, I'd buy eBay and revamp the whole thing, and I would get rid of buy it now pricing. stuff
Wow.
items, and I would
Yeah.
only use it as an auction platform and really nerd out with everybody. I think there's so much power in the eBay auction model that's
Yeah.
never been tapped into. But anyway, sorry, I'm on a rant
No,
that's not
this is,
even
do not
associated with
apologize. This is fascinating. I mean, we're not going to come up with a neat solution, but I love this idea of getting the market to set the pricing. And my only reflection from a much more primitive point of view, and by the way, my response on that, 100% agree. I've never understood why eBay has become a kind of rubbish version of Amazon. Instead of being what it is. I think it's as a positioning error for eBay, a massive error. Although they've never got on the phone to me yet to ask my opinion, so maybe maybe they know a thing or two about altcoins already.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Maybe they do. But anyway, I mean, having never sold on eBay, I have zero right to say anything. But what I would say is this: and knowing Amazon pretty well from the seller side, there's talking about the market setting pricing. I mean, another way of putting it is that I think the market always sets a price by its behavior. And I think you've got to accept the initial verdict. And then you've got three main options that I've seen. I mean, the first one is you can work super hard on the listing to really articulate the differentiation points of the product. And a lot of people don't do that well. If they're good at creating products and operations, they're often not amazing at marketing, in which case hire somebody who's good or get good at it. And we've seen a lot of members of the mastermind really improve their marketing chops, and you can get very unsubtle differences on Amazon very quickly because they've got a lot of traffic. We've even seen somebody who was pretty good at marketing, and we just ripped the listing apart, and they went from a 30% conversion rate to 40% the next month. It was very neat, and we all felt good about that. But that's the first thing. The second thing is, if it isn't different, though, you are going to have to develop the product or the packaging, and that's expensive. And that's why the third option may simply be accept the market has spoken and accept that this is how much of the product you're going to sell at this price. And if it's still profitable but not exciting, keep selling it, but don't put a ton of extra money and time into something that has not got much potential. And that's often the wisest course. Or sometimes the fourth option is accept the market spoken. It's never going to sell at a profit unless you do crazy things to it. And that money and effort would be better spent elsewhere, and just stop selling it, which is brutal. But honestly, the most grown-up people in the mastermind, the most relaxed people in the mastermind are cutting products left, right, and center. And like the most relaxed person has got the biggest revenue there. And they've been working with a business coach, and they've just basically advised them to cut a lot of their product lines. And they've cut a lot of their product lines, and they're looking relaxed. They've cut a lot of staff, so they've cut overhead. And I've never seen an e-commerce seller look happier about life, despite being in a slowdown. I mean, sales are much lower than they were 12 months ago. And that's because they've cut the dead wood. So there you go. I think all of which is to say, to your point of the market dictating price, I think the market doesn't necessarily dictate price unless you let them, but the relationship between price and sales velocity is set by the market, I believe, just all the time. And that's what people try to control. And that's like trying to, being, Sisyphus with a boulder pushing it uphill, or King Canute in the sea, or whoever you like. You just can't control these things.
It's really two layers of the operational strategy there. One layer is the product itself, the right thing to be proposing. And it's interesting because we've worked with clients who have a killer product, and then they're like, what's the next thing for you guys? Launch another thing. And they launch the second thing, and it's a total dud. But they spend all their profit and energy and time neglecting, from they take the good thing and almost treat it like it's just a given, and then they pour all of the time, money, and energy into the bad thing. It's so weird how business owners think. I know we've done the same thing. It's like, I've got something amazing here. What are you focused on? Not that. It's like, what are you focused on? Something that's not working at all. It's like, why are you doing that? Well, because I really want this other thing to work too, because then I'd have two things that work. I was like, yeah, that's not really going to happen, is it? No, it's not happening at all. And so, it's so funny. We get coaching gigs like that. Like, why do you want to work with us as your coach? Well, I got something that's really not working. Well, why don't you just stop it? Like, no, I want to pay you $2,000 a month to help me make it work.
Yeah, tell me about it. I get people approach me all the time with, I got one client, fortunately, was open to the fact that he said he approached me. He's doing drop shipping. It's a completely different business model on a Shopify site. Really good. First, in the first year of selling, really successful revenue, profit. It's scaling. He's got good operations in place. And he approached me to say, I want to private label and import stuff from China, and I want to talk to you because I know you've done that and you know how to do that. And the first thing I said is, please don't do that. not in the current. Don't do that now. 5,
Yeah.
10 years ago, or 7 years ago when I got into it, 8 years, yes, that would have been a smart play. Right now, no, don't do that. And he's not even doing private labeling
Did he listen to
anymore.
you, or did he go find
He
another
did.
coach
Yeah,
who
I
would help
said
him?
to him, the biggest challenge for you, you have products that are made of
Yeah.
steel. You're in a famous area for steel making of the UK. My challenge to you is go and find somebody literally 10 miles down the road. And that's exactly what he did. To be fair, he did
Yeah.
exactly what I
Yeah.
suggested. And the economics of it were better and the supply chains are better. But in the end, he's doubling down on what's working. Thank goodness, the drop
Mhm.
shipping, because
Yeah.
it's working. And like, to your point, doubling down on what works is, I mean, there's one reason this mastermind member looked so relaxed the other day. They are actually having the courage to, with the help of a really good mentor who's very, very experienced, 8, 9 figures in or whatever in retail over his time. And they've had the courage to cut the dead wood. And as a
Yeah.
result, the business is not under the pressure of
Yeah.
trying to push that boulder uphill. And to your point, sunk cost is such a huge thing. We'll get it. And I don't think you can really solve it for yourself because you
Yeah.
can't look outside your skull and see yourself from the outside. It's just not
Yeah.
possible. I think that you just have to have somebody look at it, and you
Yeah.
have to trust their answers enough to do it. I think those are the two things that strike me.
Yeah, it's so right. And many times as business operators, we do this where we see a shiny object in an adjacent area, and we think, man, we too want to be in that space, whatever it is, and we somehow neglect the one thing that's working in exchange for the thing that's not working that we're trying to make work. And it's so interesting that we do that. And the wiser path sometimes is to say, nope, I'm not going to be tempted. I'm just going to double my sales or my profit, on that one thing that is working. I'm going to figure out how to make a 4-pack, how to make 100 pallet sized version for the B2B people. I'm going to figure out
Yeah,
how to get it into Home Depot. I'm going to figure out how to get it into Ace Hardware or into restaurants or whatever. Those are the harder things to do with a product that's really working. And so that's this is a whole different podcast than what we started with, but there's so much nuance here about business decision making that I think is really, really a challenge, and all of us face these struggles together. It's like it's common to all of us as e-commerce operators.
it is. All I would say is, although we have sort of ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but I would say it all does relate back to pricing. I mean, one of the
Mhm.
things this person I'm talking about in the mastermind does is that they are very keen whenever they can to raise prices. They're always trying to raise prices, but they
Mhm.
test them. And if they result in terrible sales velocity, then they'll bring them back down. But I think the acid test of a product is, have you got pricing power, to use your
Yeah.
phrase that you use
Right.
all the time, and indeed the title of your book. If you don't, then it's not that great a product, which doesn't mean you should stop selling it, but you certainly shouldn't be spending all your time and efforts
Mhm.
on that single product unless your overall branding needs work. But my experience is the market speaks. It's normally giving you a pretty major hint. You can probably squeeze a bit of extra profit out, and you should, by redoing the packaging. That's a fairly cheap and relatively
Mhm.
straightforward thing to do
Yeah.
without screwing up the product and getting quality control issues and so forth. And you definitely should maximize the listing
Yeah.
to sell. That's something you should do. But that isn't going to save your product from being bad to good. It will get a good to really good, or a moderate
Yeah.
to moderately good. And that's all, in my experience, you can do. And it's just
Well, the
accepting reality is hard, I think.
that the accepting reality is hard for entrepreneurs because we get where we're at by not accepting reality. It's
Good
like,
point.
I
Yeah.
got a good product and a business because I said I'm going to impose my will on the world, and I got to a point where it worked. And so the temptation for the entrepreneur is to say, yes, I did that once, and now I can impose my will on the marketplace with another product. And many times that's just not true.
Mm.
And I spent a long time, 10 years, between first hearing about e-commerce selling to selling online. And I thought for 10 years about different products. And you know, you can talk yourself into something being a reality when it's not a reality. And I think, to your point, is in this comment, is you have to test a thesis. Like, okay, can I launch this product and can I sell? And if the answer after a certain amount of time is this is not working, then finding a new ad agency, finding a new business coach, finding a new sales channel, Maybe you do all of those things one time, and then you say, okay, if 2 SEO companies couldn't make this happen, and 2 Facebook ad companies couldn't make it happen, and 2 business coaches couldn't help me sort this out, I'm done. This product is a dud, and I'm moving on to the next thing. And I think that's probably, um, you know, some of the decision making, and playing with pricing can be part of it. And maybe you find your breakthrough, but maybe you don't, and you got to cut your losses and move on.
One final thought on that. I think sometimes, and I got a couple of members in the mastermind who've produced incredible products, and their product development process was textbook, was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people who've done that and making a fortune, really great profits, and other people who are doing that and they're selling well, but there is a cap on the price point given by the market, and
Yeah.
the market meaning that are people willing to pay more or not, and who else is selling similar stuff, and that's product centricness. Again, the price that you can sell something for and the profit, relative to your costs, is a very good reality check on not whether the product's good, but whether the product marketplace is going to reward you or not. So to your point, is there a space for a really premium price product? Sometimes the answer is no. And again, that isn't where you've got a boring product or even an undifferentiated product. You're just in a marketplace that won't allow you the sort of headroom for the price. And again, price is that kind of pivot point between supply and demand that tells you so much, doesn't it? The more you look into pricing, the more there is really. I started reading that book that you recommended, Priceless. Whoever it's by, can't remember, but we'll put it in the show
William
notes.
Poundstone. Yeah.
That's the one. There's so much that goes into this. And well, look, as a summary, I'd definitely echo what you were saying. I think everyone, the more I talk with you about this, the more I think everyone should go and read Pricing Power by Jason G. Miles. Definitely, because there's so much in this. And the more you peel back the layers of the onion, the more I realize how critical this is. But let's just summarize what we've been doing today. What's your summary of principle number 4 for the listeners?
Yeah, you've got to have a business strategy that is aligned with your pricing strategy. And those are dominoes that have to be set up together and fall in the right direction. And they can really do damage if they're not aligned. And so your best path forward is to be very clear on your business strategy or goal for the short term, and then to create a pricing strategy that works to support it really robustly. And when you can do those things together, you'll have a powerful opportunity to make headway in the market in support of your product and in support of your business goals overall. So I would say that's a bit of a summary. Yep.
Love it. Well, interesting as ever, man, to talk to you. Well, interesting doesn't really cover it. It's really fascinating. I love this Dutch auction idea. I'm going to have to go and educate myself about that. If you've enjoyed listening, folks, just a couple of things. First of all, you can find us on the Call-In app on iPhones near you. I believe we've got over 100 subscribers now on that, whatever that means. There's vanity metrics, but somebody's listening, so come join us there. And we are on, of course, all podcast channels, I should say, out there, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, the biggest ones. And on both of those channels now, you can, if you wish, leave us a rating out of 5 stars. So we'd love your highest and best rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, your highest and best review as well, if you can give us that. Just want to say thanks, man, for bringing this whole topic up. It's so fascinating, and it's so central to making a profit. I think this is really, really important topic.
Yeah, great times. See you, buddy.
See you.